Nechama.
Nechama.
Nechama sheli.
My Nechama.
Shelanu.
Our mother. I got up this morning. And you know, I couldn't sleep last night. And I looked at the date. Such a familiar date. 5th of June. Mummy. Happy birthday. Yes. It's a very sad birthday. A few weeks ago in hospital, when you still succeeded in saying what you felt in your heart, and you were already starting to worry, you asked that I would take you home. Today, Nechama, you have returned home. It's so close to our home, here just over the hill, so close to your plants that you fostered and loved. Close to the landscape, close to the forest, a forest that you believed was a herb storage place. And you used to collect them, all the various ones, even mushrooms used to collect alongside the little pathways that we both loved and walked along. You were born in the days after the great Second War, the Second World War. Your parents, pioneers for Ukraine, some of the founders of the Moshav Cherut in the Tel Mond, they lost their parents in the horrific Holocaust. And in you, they saw their consolation, their Nechama. And that is why they called you Nechama. You were a little village girl, a girl of nature. From the Moshavnikit, you loved the earth. And when we sang at home that song that we're both from the same village, we knew that you were the only one really from a rural locality. And you used to milk the cows and collect the eggs from the hen house, and then you went to school. Your father, Menachem Schulman, passed away when you were only 5 years old, and your mother, Drora Kele, she stayed working the actual farm herself, and you, and then your sister and Chaim, her husband, continued working. May they live long lives. But she fought to be, as a lioness, to be a farmer and work the earth. And sometimes I thought perhaps I transgressed against you because I was perhaps too urban, a Jerusalemite. But very quickly I understood from you that one can discover the soil and the earth in Jerusalem too, and to ride horses and to work the land and prune it, but only in the right seasons, and to grow herbs in the garden. At the university in Jerusalem, you learned agriculture, biology and zoology, and you worked for many years in the Zoological Institute at the Hebrew University. Slowly but surely, the roots of Jerusalem grew within you. You, my dearest, was more Jerusalemite than the other Jerusalemites, and more of a Rivlin than the Rivlins. That Jerusalemite kugel that you used to bake, sweet and sour at the same time, was better than the Mea Sha'arim's kugels. And from my mother, you learnt the actual recipe for banginus, the aubergines that were so spicy that I adored, my favorite dish. And then one day, after many years of being a girl of nature, when when nature sciences and life sciences, you went and decided to study art. Your rich soul could not rest. That whole world of art suddenly opened up to you. In every visit abroad, you knew in advance where you want to go and visit, which museum you will not skip, and which masterpiece you must see. Sometimes you tried to evade going to some of the boring ceremonies and the official receptions and drag me to one of the closest museums. Ruvi, you must see this, she would say. That is what you said, and you did take me, and you explained. After an exhausting day, sometimes you'd been suffering from respiratory problems over the last decade. I saw you after a very difficult day, preparing to go out. I saw you getting dressed. Where are you going? Where are you going, Imale? And your answer was, oh, today there is a dance performance at Suzanne Dalal, and I am not missing that for anything, even if I don't feel well, even if it was really hard. Art, flowers, and things at the Cinematheque, and the exhibitions on the Seam Line exhibition museum. They were the taste of life for you, the flavor of life. And more than anything, you loved poetry. You read various poets' anthologies, but especially those written by women poetesses. Sometimes you would literally force me to listen. You'd sit me down beside you while you were reading out to me from a little cutting from a paper, from a little short anthology of poetry, and you never gave up on that. So thank you for not giving up. Thank you for so many long years. You were stubbornly demanding things of me, demanding to broaden my heart and deepen my soul more and more, teaching me love that was direct and wise, but also rounding corners and showing compassion. And everything that you did and everything that you said we have to be real, always real, authentic, never in the limelight. But as the wife of the President of Israel, you understood that there is a role to play, and you took it upon yourself. But despite all that, you decided to do what was that role on the shoulders, but not as the wife of the President of Israel, but because of a decision that you would water and flower and nurture and foster anything that you knew was the right thing to do. And you chose to actually support the children with special needs, and always with other women without being a sort of declared feminist, but to foster various creators and artists, Arabs and Jews. All of them were first and foremost human beings. And despite that, you weren't. There was no other Zionist who was more of a fanatic Zionist than you. But in your deeds, you saw how all those people who loved you flourished, and that circle expanded around you. Everyone here loves you, loves you. How many loved you, Nechama? How many were concerned about your health and asked about you and wanted to write and wished you health and prayed for your recovery throughout these few months, to strengthen us and somehow embrace you. Yesterday, I looked at the books that you left beside your bed. Some of them, there was a bookmark, and in some of them, perhaps a little stick left over from an ice cream that you had marked the place where you'd stopped reading. And I looked at them. You went to sleep with Lolita by Nabokov or Agi Mishol, and on the shelf we could see Back from Emek Raphaim from Chaim Kebe'er, and then a flea getting dressed of Ami Rubinger, Tishrim, Ayman, Siksak, and 1,000 Hearts of Dancel Khan. And also Amos Oz's last book, Our Beloved, and sometimes someone who we argued with things about. But you had reached the last chapter of that book, and in that last chapter, which were called The Traffic Lights, are changing without us, and it's been doing so for a long time. My beloved girl, what traffic light can possibly change colors without you? Over the last month, people asked me what kind of mother you are, and I said you are a mother that for the last 4 months no one left your bed for a second, nor the children nor their spouses. Not for 1 second did they leave you alone. That's the kind of mother you were. That's the kind of grandmother you were. Rivi and Tomer, Anat and Gadi, Ran and Einat, thank you, each and every one of you, for being there for us, for Mummy. Matan, Shai, Carmela, Daniela, Yahav, all my grandchildren. Grandmother loved you with all her heart, and she will continue loving you always from above. Thank you, one and all, because you are my family. And thank you to all the citizens, because through your eyes and your words and your presence, again and again, our Nechama's light will shine like 1,000 suns. And to you, Nechama, my wife, to you, my beloved Nechama, my lover. It is so hard for me to believe that I am bidding you farewell. I'm sure I will look for you throughout the nights and days. Thank you, Nechamale, for your love, for the family, for always being with me, for your supportive hand, your humor, and your warm heart, and for the fact that I was so fortunate to be the husband of the wife of the President of Israel. I was the spouse of the wife of the President of Israel. No water will ever be able to extinguish my love, and all the rivers of this world will never run that away. Rest in peace. Amen.